Long before wheat lined the fields of empires, and long before rice terraced the hills of Asia, there was a smaller seed. Millet, a grain no larger than a grain of sand, yet one that has fed more people across more centuries than almost any crop humankind has ever known. Its story begins not in the fertile floodplains, but in the dry and unforgiving margins of the world, where little else would grow. In northern China, more than 10,000 years ago, farmers first gathered the wild ancestors of foxtail and broomcorn millet. In the savannas of West Africa, pearl millet was tamed some 4,500 years ago. And across the dry plateaus of India, finger millet took root and never let go. These were not the grains of kings. They were the grains of survival. What makes millet remarkable is not what it needs, but what it does not. It asks for little water. It endures heat that would wither maize. It matures in as few as 60 days, racing to seed before the drought returns. Where wheat demands rich soil and steady rain, millet thrives in sand and stone. On land the plow had all but given up on. For the farmers of the semi-arid tropics, this was not a luxury. It was the difference between a harvest and a hungry season. Growing millet has changed little across the millennia. The seeds are sown shallow into warm soil, often broadcast by hand across the field. Within days, thin green blades emerge, and the plant rises quickly, some varieties reaching the height of a person, crowned by heavy seed heads that bend beneath their own weight. When the grain ripens to gold, the harvest comes. In many parts of the world, it is still cut with a sickle, gathered into sheaves and left to dry beneath the sun. Then comes the threshing, beating the stalks to loosen the tiny seeds, and the winnowing, tossing the grain into the wind so the chaff drifts away and the heavy kernels fall back to the cloth below. It is patient work, unchanged and unhurried. For thousands of years, millet was a cornerstone of human civilization. It sustained the early dynasties of China, where it was considered one of the 5 sacred grains. It fed the builders of the great cities of the Sahel. Across India, it became the daily bread of millions, ground into flour for flatbreads and simmered into porridge. Roman soldiers ate it. Medieval peasants across Europe depended on it before the potato ever arrived. It was food that did not fail, humble and dependable, the quiet foundation beneath grander histories. And then, slowly, it was forgotten. As global agriculture turned toward wheat, rice, and corn, millet was pushed aside. The green revolution of the 20th century favored high-yielding grains grown with irrigation and fertilizer, and millet, the crop of dry and difficult places, came to be seen as poor man's food, a relic of an older, harder time. In much of the world, it vanished from the plate. But the land does not forget what it needs. Today, as the climate grows hotter and water grows scarce, the very traits that once made millet seem primitive now make it precious. It is naturally free of gluten. It is rich in protein, fiber, iron, and minerals. It grows where other grains cannot, with a fraction of the water. Scientists and farmers alike are looking again at this ancient survivor. In the year 2023, the United Nations declared an International Year of Millets, calling the world to rediscover the grain it had left behind. Across India, the largest producer on Earth, government programs now promote millet in schools and markets. In Africa, it remains a lifeline for tens of millions. And in the kitchens of distant cities, from health-conscious cafes to fine restaurants, the tiny grain is appearing once more, reinvented for a new age. It is a strange kind of comeback, a seed thousands of years old suddenly feeling like the future. Perhaps that is the deeper lesson of millet, that resilience is not loud, and endurance is not glamorous, that the thing best suited to survive is often the thing we overlooked. In a warming, thirsty world, the smallest grain may yet prove to be among the most important, feeding a future that looks, in the end, a great deal like the distant past.